You're listening to the Moist Boys Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jurassic Park month. We are rolling on through. We've put away our old toys. We've
watched the good movies,
and now we're moving on.
Now we're adults.
This isn't a walk in the park, my boys. We're opening up a whole new world, Jurassic World.
I gotta go.
Oh no.
So yeah, today we're talking about Jurassic World, the 2015 movie starring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Judy Greer for a hot second. I was trying to remember his name from The Office, but now it's completely left my mind.
From The Office?
Yeah.
Eric Edelstein?
Yeah. What was his name in The Office? That's going to bug me now.
I don't know. I just know him as Grizz from We Bare Bears.
That's him.
What?
That's him.
Yeah. Also starring Ty Simpkins and Nick Robinson.
Yeah.
Then we get a little bit of Jake Johnson in there. I'm just reading the fucking cast at this point. What am I doing?
Jake Johnson in this movie.
Wasted.
Wasted, and also like one of the worst aspects of how they put this thing together.
A little bit, yeah.
Andy Buckley. He's the one. He played David Wallace on The Office. Wallace. So Judy Greer, David Wallace.
David Wallace.
Lauren Lapkus is in it, who I don't think I knew who she was at the time. But,
yeah, me either.
She is a comedian. Omar Sy, who they did not ask to come back for the sequel. Or maybe he asked not to come back.
Or maybe he asked not to come back. He was just like, you know what? Can we just not?
BD Wong, one of the many self-masturbatory references to the original movies that they couldn't help but make. Between him and Jake Johnson, like if they had cut out those two characters, it might have not been as bad in that way. But like the way they had it set up, like he was just there to make everyone nostalgic for the old park. Like literally even saying so in the movie. He's like, that old park, man, that was legit. The original Jurassic Park was legit. Like, okay, rad. Movie, we get it.
Go watch the original.
Also starring Katie McGrath as the world's best assistant.
Oh.
Katie McGrath starring as Colin Trevorrow's ex-girlfriend, Zara, which we'll get. Let's go through. So it's gonna be kind of hard to talk about this and Fallen World separately, but Fallen Kingdom separately, but we'll try a little bit too, because it should have been
Fallen franchise,
Jurassic World, Retcon Kingdom, because there's a lot of stuff that they just decide. You know what? That didn't happen in the last movie. This is how it happened now.
Just in case you didn't believe us, let's kill it all.
Now nobody gets to know how it happened.
No one gets to play.
So
taking my toys and I'm going home
to murder them.
Bryce Dallas Howard plays Claire Deering, which sounds like a fake. It sounds like a fake name.
Sounds like Bryce Dallas Howard.
Claire, what's your real name? Claire Deering. And then Chris Pratt plays Owen Grady, another fake name. Like everyone here is like under a pseudonym because they're on the run from the law.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I noticed on the rewatch is that everybody that works at this park kind of is like schlubby American people, but like this, you would think this would be like a pretty prestigious job, because like you're living in the you're living on a tropical paradise.
Disneyland, I mean.
Yeah, like you go to Disneyland, you don't see like schlubby people just kind of like
not giving a shit.
Yeah. But there are several, like the gyrosphere operator who's like,
he's like
the stoner guy that works the Ferris wheel at the county fair. But like that's not. Before I forget about it, because I had forgotten, but like the little nerd guy that falls into the raptor cage that Chris Pratt has to save. Like later on, he's the one that like hits the button that opens the raptor thing, and he gives like a little when he hits the button. like he kind of gets into it. And I was like, dude, you're not a big enough role. This isn't your role. Like, you just hit the button.
This was his last chance.
Yeah.
This was his last chance to make an impact. I'm coming back for the second movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are ostensibly the heroes of the movie, even though
Sure, why not?
they make every
Heroes
decision in this, or every decision they make and everything they do in this movie
Makes everything awful.
Yeah, like they're doing everything they can to make the rest of this movie happen.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to Claire Foot first in this film because she's introduced by her shoes because we get to see her.
That's called foreshadowing.
Yeah, in an elevator. And yeah, it's hard to get a read on her character a little bit at the beginning.
She's an android.
Yeah, she's like
Then she's not.
But then she's not.
She's like the ice queen business lady.
Yeah.
That's going to get her come up. Like a character that you would see in a 90s
In the
action
original
movie.
Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
she died.
Yeah.
Yeah, except like Steven Spielberg was smart enough not to put that shitty stereotype of a character in. Like he was like, you know, it's the 90s now. Women can have a career and not just be like shitty people about it.
Yeah. So again, so I know we're gonna talk into like slight.
We're gonna talk around this movie instead of straight through it.
Because dear God, but like, so at that point, I'm just gonna go into both characters then. So Claire has this weird like disconnect from human beings in general. So Claire in this movie on the spectrum a little bit.
Like she doesn't understand how
Humans.
things work.
She doesn't understand people.
Yeah.
We're all on the spectrum a little bit.
A little bit, but like aside from like, as I'm just gonna go full on like offensive to everybody, and I apologize for but like besides the fact that she can make eye contact with people, she's autistic. Silence. There it is.
I think she's. I feel like the way the movie tries to get it across is she was not raised by anybody who loved her.
So she was the Indominus Rex.
She was the Indominus Rex.
Because they love Judy Greer more.
Like,
because that conversation is so bizarre that they have. Because like Judy Greer is in what we find out for no reason later is a lawyer's office because they're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
And she's on the phone with Bryce Dallas Howard, and Bryce Dallas Howard is like pawned off her nephews onto her assistant.
She's like, they're with my assistant. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and they're like, so they're having like this argument, and they talk about their parents or whatever. And like after she hangs up the phone, she has like this 1,000-yard stare for a moment, and then the movie just like continues on. Like Judy Greer is like just blubbering, crying, and like she asks if everything's okay, but like they don't really talk about what's going on because they want to save that for the kids to
reveal for no reason
later. But like, yeah, like she's talking to her Judy Greer, who's just like blubbering and crying, and then she just hangs up the phone. It's like system reboot, and then she just continues on with the movie.
she's a clone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She's the clone. So yeah, we get introduced to her, and she's like talking about all of the corporate sponsorships that this park has to build these new dinosaurs and Jake John. So this movie does a thing where they've sold the movie rights to like every company they could find, like to Jimmy Buffett and his like Margaritaville.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And you know that Doritos and Verizon paid for their mentions in this movie, even though the movie's trying to give the movie shit about it. Like they're doing the thing, but then commenting on how the people in the movie are doing the thing. Yeah, so like
it's called punk rock.
They're like, yeah, the Ramones presented by AT&T Wireless.
Singing songs about how they hate AT&T,
how it's not cool to sell out to AT&T. It's like, yeah. So they're talking about how nobody loves dinosaurs anymore, which
fuck off.
Like people still go to Disneyland is still a thing. So like, I feel like
there's a sense of disenfranchisement that this movie is trying to get across, but it chose the wrong fucking thing to.
I feel like if this movie came out 10 years earlier, there would have been much more of a feeling of like, oh yeah, that is kind of right. Like, kids don't really like dinosaurs as much as they used to, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was like a drop in that where interest waned. And,
Like right after Jurassic Park 3 where nobody went to see it. So they stopped making the movies for 15 years or 12 years.
I think it's a little late on that, but it kind of felt like that's what it was kind of talking about. But.
And also, like, so they're talking about how, they have to stay ahead of it, but then they also repeatedly say that profit is up from prior year and that there's more people than ever coming to the park, but they're still concerned about something for some reason. Like, they're trying to fix something that's not broken, which I guess is why they end up breaking it worse.
It's what corporations do.
Yeah. So then we get introduced to the theory of the Indominus Rex. Irfan Khan takes a break from running Oscorp to come in and fly his helicopter in. And he flies helicopters for some, I guess, just that's how he can die, I guess.
He's
but
badass. That's why.
Yeah.
So he flies. Also, so there's this thing where when people don't speak native English and they're speaking English, native English speakers assume that they're not as smart as they are because, they're not of the way they talk. Like, they have to think about the words. So we assume that they're dumb, not that they're trying to find the words, but they're trying to find the thoughts behind the words. And I feel like they could have given him a couple more takes on some of his lines because, like, they just kind of do his accent out there and then just, like, let it sit. And I feel like he didn't say that word very well. Like, maybe give him a couple more, like, I don't know.
A few more passes at it.
Yeah, there's like some scenes where just like you get
one shot. And, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So then they go out to the Indominus Rex paddock and they're talking about also this character Masrani. He's kind of back and forth because like he's kind of pushing for these advancements. Like he's kind of on board with all of this stuff that they're doing, but he's also like pretending to be a naturalist at the same time. Like, he's like going back and forth where like he wants these things, like he wants all this stuff to happen. He's letting all these paramilitary. You have to make
me all of this money, but I'm not as bad as John Hammond was.
Yeah, and like he's bringing in these paramilitary groups from InGen. Even the relation between InGen and Masrani Corp doesn't make any sense because they're like two completely separate groups, but he's just let InGen in to run rampant all over this place. And
they know what they're doing.
They did so great before.
Do they? We have 3 previous movies that establish that they don't know what they're. I can't talk. Fuck, I'm out.
There's another weird thing too where we're introduced to the park and then it does a slow push in on like a little bunker that's like set way away from the rest of the park where we're kind of led to believe this is the lab that they're in. But there's also like hundreds of tourists in this part too, so it's like they built this section
City on rock and roll.
It's just weird the way they had it set up where it's like this thing is set away for like you think they would have another lab where the tourists go to, not literally outside B.D. Wong's door.
Yeah,
that's what John Hammond would have done.
Yeah. So yeah, we're starting to introduce the Indominus Rex and Masrani, who kind of goes back and forth between how he feels about these, like either they're assets that are money or they're animals, or he just wants to kill them all and let God sort them out. And then
the
business.
Yeah,
it's the hypocrisy of the billionaire. Like
I guess
it's that like the way to stay where I am is to be awful, but
Yeah.
I want to be good. I could be good.
But then we're also kind
Not
of
gonna
like
be good.
led to believe that he's competent, but also has no idea what's happening inside any of his company.
He's like a dumbass. Like he goes back and forth between someone who I wanted to die and someone who I wanted to take over, like main role of.
Yeah.
Like, I really wanted him to be like an Ian Malcolm, like kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy's a dick, but I want to see more.
Yeah, so since he's not in this movie very much, we can go on. Probably to juxtapose the most uncomfortable death in this movie, he probably gets the funniest one where all the
Like, I'm gonna fly the helicopter. 5 minutes later, my helicopter.
he's just like spiraling through the air after
I'll show them.
Yeah.
like the pteranodon just like flies through the windshield right into his co-pilot.
Yeah.
And his helicopter goes like spinning out of control and he just like blows up inside the aviary.
which is, again, like watching the movie, I remember kind of just being in the theater and just being like, that felt unearned.
Yeah. And
He earned it.
this is also where that scene's where we're introduced to the pterosaurs.
Yeah.
Which are like the 2003 King Kong monsters that they decided to put on this island. Like, there's no way to go into that thing to look at these things, so I don't know why they're even there.
Yeah.
Because set up, there's like
You
it's just
get
this
in your
big
little
giant
You get in
aviary.
your bubble car. You get in your bubble car.
I guess, and then these things are like trying to destroy you.
Yeah.
What isn't going to try to destroy you?
Like that whole gyrosphere thing, that, and then the like kayaking down the river with just loose dinosaurs everywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's
that seems dangerous.
No, 0% chance any of that happens.
Especially when there's no automated control over those gyrospheres. They just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. But even like with the kayaks, like there's no way you don't have at least
Accidental
one dinosaur that you didn't realize was there, just popping up out of that little river and knocking somebody over.
Like if you go to
stepping on
Disneyland,
somebody.
you go down the raft ride, and like there's bumpers all over the place to keep you on course and not flipping over. So like this seems pretty dangerous.
Like I don't know if it's is that an
don't have to-
OSHA thing?
they don't have to follow U.S. laws.
Yeah,
There's no lines
you.
here. This is Jurassic World.
we make the laws.
So when Claire and Masrani are talking about the Indominus, that's when Masrani reveals that he has brought in, which he says he brought in someone new, Owen Grady, which we found out isn't true, that Owen Grady's been there for at least a couple years by this point, but he says he's brought him. It's really confusing because he said he's brought someone in to train with the Raptors. So I guess like none of the different departments talk to each other because he's talking like that she doesn't know who he is, but she does know who he is.
Yeah.
So it's not really like you think she would know what's happening in the park, right? Because she's in charge of the park.
You
like,
would think so.
but
she doesn't have time to get down into the nitty gritty bullshit of things. She's a busy woman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then we get introduced to a little piglet that's running through some grass.
That pig gets ate.
Well, not in this scene, but at some point, probably.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
All
In the
pigs
very
get
near future.
We get introduced to Chris Pratt and his dog clicker as he's trying to see. In this movie, the raptors are definitely wild animals still. That he just like he can barely make it so they don't instantly kill him.
Yeah.
And then with no scenes in between, suddenly he's best buds with this raptor later. So it's pretty confusing.
And also, anybody who has ever trained animals will tell you, you don't just stand over them clicking to get attention. The click is either for the...
When you throw them the treats so
you
that
throw
they get
them
their Pavlovian
yeah,
response.
you get the Pavlovian response going. You don't just stand there just going click, 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 click,
Like,
click, click,
maybe
click,
he had
click.
already
Up
done
here,
that.
motherfucker!
Nuts.
Click, click,
They
click,
go
click, click,
fucking
click, click.
nuts.
Maybe he had already done that by that point.
But that's not... You don't use it to
yeah.
get their attention at all.
Oh, yeah.
You get their attention by like you
your
have
voice.
specific calls that you get their attention with, and that is like click because you did the thing, click, you get the reward.
Yeah, like you call him, you click, you throw the treat.
Yeah. It's not
Hey guys, hey, don't eat that guy.
yeah,
Don't eat
that's
that guy.
not what that's not how the
Stay
clicker
over
that's
here.
not how you train with a clicker.
Yeah. So he has his 4 raptors that are his best buds, but they're also going to murder him in any second.
Murder him any minute.
He throws him some beef jerky, but Blue, she's special. She gets a little rat.
Yeah, she does. She's his favorite.
So yeah, there's a dumbass. I don't know why they keep building these parks where the raptors can just like affect things up above, because like they run into a thing that knocks over a thing that knocks this guy into like this guy gets knocked into the raptor pen.
Yeah, because the pig accidentally gets loose. And he is like, oh, no, not the pig that they're going to eat anyway. And so he uses his long dog catching stick to swipe the pig.
Okay, yeah.
A raptor grabs it and
that.
runs off with it. And that pulls him into the pen.
Oh, God.
Raptors are smart.
Raptors. So, yeah, Owen Grady saves him. So we figure out that he's the hero. We also are introduced to Hoskins, who for the first like 80% of this movie is like the hero because he's the only one that wants to do anything about what's going wrong with the park. Until you find out that he actually is also, and like every character in this movie is directly responsible for everything that happens. But for some reason, like some of them were the heroes and some of them are not. So we find out that Bob Hoskins wants to use the Raptors as like a paramilitary.
It's revealed.
It is revealed to be Bob Hoskins.
Brought back from the dead to be in this movie.
Yeah. What a shame.
So he wants to use them as weapons. And this is a thing that is like the through line through these movies is that these movies are trying to convince us that we don't need tanks and missiles and guns. We just need a couple of bulletproof dinosaurs to do everything for us.
Heck yeah.
Which, whether or not you're sold on that, I guess, is just your personal.
And then this is the scene where Hoskins talks about, so I found this little wolf pup out in the woods and I raised her like she was my own.
And then my wife
came at me. My wife came at me with a knife because she wanted a divorce, but I was like, nah, bitch, you my wife. And then that wolf came in there and just grabbed her by the hand and was like, no, ma'am, that's my dude.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
That is a word for word.
Yeah, that is not at all what Vincent D'Onofrio sounds like in anything. But
so then
he thinks he sounds like.
Yeah,
Claire and Owen get their little meet re-cute because we find out that they dated once.
Ugh.
And this
kill me now. This is one of the main problems that I have with the movie is that Chris Pratt
is a dick. And not a person. Like nobody's a person in this movie.
Nobody's a person in this movie. Everybody is what the writer needs them to be, depending on the scene. The scenes where Chris Pratt is a serious ex-Navy
action guy,
like serious, works way more than when they're like, remember that one time when he was Andy Dwyer on Parks and Rec, and he was like kind of dumb, but like he had jokes. And so they try to write his character to be both of those things depending on what the movie, air quotes, calls for.
Yeah.
And so we get, this is our first jokey guy scene with him where he's fixing his motorcycle and he's like, well, we used to date,
with the boners.
With the boners and stuff. Like, you know what else has boners? Animals. Animals got a bone.
Animals gotta fuck.
It's like, God, this scene is so fucking
And then
stupid.
he says that and he looks up and he's like, you know what that's like. You gotta want one of them things, don't you? It's like, isn't this where she calls HR? Like, this guy
is escorted off the island.
Yeah, like, this is like one of those, like, people that are fans of Steven Spielberg things where it's like, what makes a character cool? He has a trailer down by the water. He rides a motorcycle that he's always working on, and he never takes a shower. And like, they just check, like, even though it doesn't make sense, like, why does he get a trailer? Like, there should be like barracks
quarters
where people live, because this is like a self-contained thing. But like, and like, not only does he have like a little like silver bullet trailer, like he's added onto it. He's like made a crooked shanty that he slapped on top. Yeah, so then now they get to go to visit the Indominus Rex, and as stupid as the movie has been up to this point, which we'll talk about other stuff that's happened, like this is where the movie gets into real dumb town. So they look for the dinosaur inside the paddock with their little they've got like thermal sensors, and oh no, there's no dinosaur in there. And then Chris Pratt sees a bunch of claw marks going up the wall, and he's like, maybe it's got something to do with one. Sometimes he has like a southern accent in this, and sometimes he just does Chris Pratt. And this is where his southern accent like pops out for half a second. He's like, maybe it's got to do something with one of these claw marks over here.
Oh my gosh.
And then so Claire's like, well, I'm going to go find out where the dinosaur is. I'll be back.
I'm going to go do some work.
So it's not exactly like you would think in this super high-tech park they would have places where radios and cell phones always work.
Thanks, T-Mobile.
Like, because she has to drive like 90 miles an hour back to the base, and then she calls Jake Johnson while she's driving to find out where the Indominus Rex is. And Chris Pratt's like, you know what we should do? Since we don't know where this dinosaur is, we should
just go right in there.
Go right on the hell on, and us and a couple other guys. We're just going to go in there and take a look.
Come on, Grizz. Let's go figure it out.
Who's Grizz? Eric Edelstein.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's speeding back. There's no reason. I mean, the only reason why she has to drive back is because they don't want her in the scene where Chris Pratt has to be an action hero to get away from the dinosaur.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because like just call from where you're standing. Like pick up a phone. There should be hard lines. If you can't get cell service there or radio service,
landlines everywhere of this park.
What phones are?
Yeah,
this is a high tech park. We got no cell
like
towers.
A 2-minute phone call. Hey Lowry, is the dinosaur still in its cage? Yes, it is. Cool.
And then they're like, oh. So they have that scene, and then they're like, oh my God, they're in the cage with the thing. And this is where we're like half introduced to the Indominus Rex because you never really get a clear picture of it. You get some feet, you get some hands, you get like the bottom of its jaw.
You get an eyeball.
Eric Edelstein is like the top level villain of this movie because he like opens up the main bay doors. And it's been like, Hal should have shut that shit down.
Yeah.
But yeah, he opens up the main bay door. Chris Pratt comes running through it. The Indominus... So the Indominus just pushes through the wall.
Because it was kind of open.
But like...
So why couldn't it just do that anyway?
Concrete is stronger when the doors are closed. Like,
yeah, duh.
Yeah, like
that's how concrete works.
There's several times where this thing will just like push through a concrete wall. But it couldn't before. But anyway,
didn't want to.
Eric Edelstein gets eaten by the Indominus Rex.
Gets it,
and then it just leaves the scene.
And then Chris Pratt has to climb under a truck and then pour gasoline all over himself, so it doesn't know that he's there.
Yeah, which he doesn't, because later on, him and Bryce Dallas Howard are like hiding in the old Jurassic Park, and the thing just like walks up to them, puts his nose against them, and is like, well, nothing to see here, and then leaves.
Just a bunch of gas.
So yeah, they disappear from the movie for a little bit, and then when they come back, he goes to the. So I guess he goes back to his trailer. Changes his clothes, takes a shower, then goes back to the main facility because he is not covered in gasoline anymore or oil.
Yeah, duh.
He does the correct thing and just like says, kill the animal now. Don't fuck around. Put it down. And this is where Masrani's like, no, we can't. That cost $26 million. I'm just like, okay. Which you find out later that cost him $800 million to pay off all these lawsuits. So like, they lost money on this.
I mean, he doesn't care at that point because he did.
Yeah. So they decide, we're gonna catch this thing. We're gonna bring it back to somewhere because it destroyed the pen that it was in. So can't put
where
it there.
Are we gonna put it?
20 guys just die here. So now we're up to like 22 deaths in this movie, and we don't know who any of them were
Nah.
up to this point because you don't need characters or character names. It's just dead bodies are fun.
Yeah, you just need.
That's how you know it's a dangerous animal.
You just need a movie monster. You don't need an actual animal doing what an animal would do.
And you don't need characters that you kind of are afraid might actually die.
Yeah. Just throw random dudes at a wall. See who sticks.
Yeah. So Hoskins is like, we need to take out those raptors to fight the Indominus Rex and put it down.
Makes all the sense.
Which, holy shit, no!
Dumb idea.
That's the worst fucking idea.
But at least he wants to do something because everyone else is like, no, we'll throw some more people at it.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's like a bunch more business where nothing really happens with Claire and Owen Grady.
Yeah. And then
at some point they end up back there because Masrani does his suicide mission in the helicopter. So Hoskins is telling Masrani that, we gotta go out there. We gotta take these raptors, take a bunch of shotguns, and go and put this thing down. And Masrani's like, no, you know what? We'll figure out later if that's the moral choice. Smash cut to slapping a minigun onto a helicopter because that's the more moral. But you found out later it's not true because then Masrani gets like a couple hundred more people killed.
Yeah.
Because, so yeah, there's the Owen and Claire end up at the old Jurassic Park because two of the kids. So we've got these two kids, the Mitchells. Zach and Gray.
Zach and Gray.
Oh, God.
Ty Simpkins and Nick Robinson.
Yeah.
I swear I know two kids named that. Two siblings. Like,
Well, those people, there's nothing wrong with that. But so you have Gray, who's, these two kids are also not people either because at the beginning of the film, you're given a fake out because you have this big giant dinosaur foot that like smashes into some snow and you're like, ooh, what kind of dinosaur is this? But it's just
a crow.
Yeah, it's just a crow. Like, oh, that's funny, I guess.
connect them back.
Then you have this weird moment where Zach is like saying goodbye to his girlfriend, and she's like, "Oh, I love you so much." He's like, "I'm gonna miss you, I guess."
You're okay.
Yeah, and it's like, it doesn't make, like, since I had seen this movie and knew where it was going, I was like, why are we seeing this?
Yeah.
Like, none of this matters at all. Because it's just some busy work to get the kids to the airport, which you can just start at the airport. Like,
start at the airport.
You could even start them on the boat. You could start them in the park.
Yep.
You could literally have them running up and saying, "Aunt Claire!" Because since that would be just a ripoff of the original one, which is what they would want to, you think they would want to do that?
You would think that's what they would want to do.
But then I feel like that's one of those things where filmmakers have started to like capitulate to online assholes that complain about plot holes where it's just things that we didn't see happen that are
Is a plot hole.
Yeah. And it's like, we don't need to see them leaving their house, packing their
Waking
bags,
up
getting to
and
the
having
airport,
breakfast.
on the boat in Jamaica or in Costa Rica, getting on the boat, to get onto the boat, to get to the island, to meet the assistant, to get to their rooms. But it's like there's just so much busy work happening.
Well, I mean, if they're more prominent characters, if you're gonna see how he's kind of this young and up and coming womanizer, then like you can set that up. You can set stuff up like that in these scenes, but then nothing really kind of comes about that. He stares at girls all the time, but
yeah, that's
never
his character.
like
it never goes anywhere.
Doesn't really go anywhere.
Like, in like a real movie where someone is thinking about the story, they would have like him not paying attention would lead to something. Like his little brother would run away and then his brother would get into something that would lead them to something else, but they just end up places for no reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're doing their, so the whole beginning of this movie with these two kids is like, these guys, Michael Giacchino and Colin Trevorrow, they go through the entire John Williams Jurassic Park catalog because like every theme you knew from that original movie gets played over these incredibly boring.
Get into the island scenes.
Yeah, it's like get that John Williams score out of your goddamn dirty mouth, because I guess you're supposed to feel like the majesty and like the awe of seeing this park, but it's just a CGI park. I don't have any. There's no emotional. Like they're trying to make you feel those emotions of like, I remember Jurassic Park and hearing this music, and that's making me feel a thing towards these characters now. But it doesn't because
work
they're not like you're just watching them unpacking their bags in their room. There's no, it's not a thing where you're like getting to know these people. Yeah. So the gray little kid is like, half the time he's Rain Man, where he's just yelling out numbers of things that he sees, and then the rest of the time he's just like, I don't want to say normal, but he's just like not that person. Like,
toned down.
Yeah, like, I mean, the only reason why he yells out the number of things is so that you can see that he knows how many numbers of teeth different dinosaurs have.
Damn it.
So that way, at the climax of the movie, he can turn to Bryce Dallas Howard and be like, "We need more teeth." Which, what?
What the fuck does that mean,
kid? Have you seen my mouth? Yeah, they're packed in there. Like I can't fit anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? And that's pretty much like what his character is. Like, these are just characters like leading you down a path. And I feel like you could not have characters, because there is a film that came out within the last couple months that I watched called Godzilla King of the Monsters, and there's a lot of dumb stuff in that movie, and a lot of the characters say dumb stuff, but you don't care because that's not like the point of the movie. Like, I had a point and now it's gone. But like it's the same thing where like
big dumb monsters.
Yeah, like these are like, you're here to see the monsters, and that's like they set up the monster stuff, and that's what you're doing. You're not they're not like trying to play up your nostalgia for a series that's already existed for a while. And I feel like, don't try to make me feel for these people that aren't people. If you're gonna
try to make me connect with the human element of this movie, actually write the human element of this movie
in there.
Yeah. So yeah, these kids, they go off in their gyroscope that apparently the park can't do anything about if someone decides to just go off-roading.
How do they not just have like an automatic like callback
Return to
after
base.
X amount of time? Like yeah.
Buy a Roomba, take the little microchip out and put it in this fucking...
just have like lines buried throughout the park that just like, nope, can't go here. Turn around.
So the other thing that we see too is that there are no electrical fences, because they just put the devices in the animals. Mm-hmm. So like the Indominus was smart enough to know that they put it in somewhere.
Just like a person.
So yeah, it's ripped out its tracking thing, so they can't track it, but they do track it. What did it rip out then? Because they track it after that, because they know where it is in the park throughout the rest of the movie.
Do they?
Yeah, because they're like, I guess they know because of the people that it's killing as it's going along.
Is it eating people? Like, does did it swallow? No, that's the GPS phone from the third movie.
Yeah,
So yeah, these two kids are in their gyrosphere. They run into another big thudding line is that like they pull up in front of these ankylosaurs, and he's like, the older kid, Zach, is like, well, look, there's 4 dinosaurs. Or the kid's like, oh, look at those 5 dinosaurs. And then his older brother says a line that doesn't make any sense. Like, I thought you were supposed to be some kind of super genius. There's only 4 dinosaurs. And I'm like, when was he supposed to be? Why? When?
When? Yeah, when did that become? God damn.
And he's like, no, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he points the reflection of the Indominus in the back of the... And like... So he points to the Indominus Rex, and then he gets scared of it, even though he knows that it was like he saw it.
He's been looking
at the damn thing.
Yeah, like he's pretty chill about the Indominus until he points it out to the audience, and then like, oh no, now it's scary.
Yeah.
There's some spinning around bullshit. Like, it's the one kind of funny thing is when the Indominus puts the gyrosphere into its mouth and it's trying to like pick him up and crack him like an egg to get to the sweet gooey center. That was pretty
sweet cat bears.
And this is kind of like the first time you actually see the Indominus Rex stem to stern, because the rest of the time it's just been like shot in like quarter frame, partial frame, 80, like big chunks of it have been not put in frame, which is kind of obnoxious. Where you're like, I just want that first hero shot of the dinosaur,
Yeah.
so that I know what it is and what it looks like, so that I can use my imagination the rest of the time. Like in the original Jurassic Park, when the T-Rex comes out of its paddock and does the big hero shot, and you're like, that's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
You know exactly what it is.
And then you see the little eye, you see its foot stomping, you see like the things, but you have this idea of like
What is attached to that.
right. They just did it backwards.
Substantially worse.
Yeah. So yeah, they run away in the gyrosphere.
Run away.
Run. And then they eventually end up at the old park, and another just a really dumb, like, there's gas powered Jeeps in the old park that they go find in the old garage, and the kid's like, hey, remember when we used to, another detail that doesn't matter in this movie.
Yeah.
Remember when we used to put Dad's car back together? Well, we're going to do it with this one. And apparently all you need to do, if you have a 23, 22-year-old vehicle,
Just put a new battery in it.
a golf cart battery in your big old Jeep, and there's not going to be, there's all the fluids are going to be still topped up. None of the hoses are going to be that's melted away.
Deteriorated.
Yeah.
No, it just runs purrs like a kitten.
Yeah, it runs brand new, so they get it fixed up. That's when Owen and Claire come running in as they're leaving. And that's when the Indominus Rex does its attack here, which again, like, it goes right up next to him and is like sniffing around for him, and just decides, you know what, this isn't the scene where they die, so I'm just gonna
walk away.
I'm gonna come back in a second with a big jump scare. Owen Grady's Winchester's kind of cool, I guess.
Kinda.
I'll give you that.
I feel like a lot of this movie is that was kind of cool. I like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like the rundown, deteriorated, like old Jurassic Park stuff.
Yeah.
But that felt like a shitty use of it.
Yeah.
Like, would have been great if they're running through and there were these homages to the original film, like through that. Like,
yeah.
Oh, got through the fucking kitchen and something like that. But
my thing with all of that, like, old architecture still being there is, why is all of that old architecture still there? Like, you clearly
need every inch of this park to be a thing.
Yeah, like, why wouldn't you have somebody, when you're building, if you're building a new park, why wouldn't you build on top of the old park that already exists and just tear everything out, update it, start fresh? Because clearly Hammond went to the island and surveyed this shit and was like, this is a great place, this is a great place, we need to use this.
Well, they had to build their new park around that bay so they could have the big Mosasaurus that come as their main attraction, I guess.
But they have a giant monorail that could take people to that part of the island.
But I mean, on the same like note of why is it still there? I mean, just because it's still there doesn't mean it's not going to be dealt with. I mean, if you look at Disney World, there are parts of that park that shut down for years. Stuff that they'll set up, something happens. Nope, we've got what is it that's it was a bird sanctuary for a little bit here, and I think they're reopening it for something else, but it was a ride. It's a big old island out in the water. I think most of it is like man-made out there, like, and there were accidents on it, and then they tried to re-up it. It did not click with whatever they changed it to, and then they just shut it down. And like, you would go on these little boat rides and you could see it, but there was no way to get out to it if you weren't part of the park. And they just left it like that just because, all right, we're not doing anything, we don't know what to do with it. So I mean, that it's a very real possibility they did the same thing with this. It's like, there's a lot we need to redo, dig up, and change around. They laid a lot of shit we don't want to deal with. It's easier and cheaper to just build a new thing over here. And so, but you'd think they'd do something with it by then.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't have the scene where the kids get to go into the old park and talk about, and you only get to have some of them nostalgia memories.
Right.
You would. I think this is the part where the first time they used the Jurassic Park theme on just the piano. Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You get some member berries shoved in your mouth.
Because don't they also, like, in walking into the old communication center, like, they walk over the when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Yeah.
And he like bends over and picks it up for some reason, like
why would you?
because we got to
call attention to it because we got to blow our load on our nostalgia.
So this is where like you get the Pteranodon pterosaur attack, where they just like are flying in, eating everybody, carrying them away.
Yeah,
totally wrecking shop. And and I'd like to just take a moment in this part of the podcast to just Colin Trevorrow, if you are listening to this, which I assume you are.
I can only assume.
Mr. Trevorrow, give us a call. We're
worried about you.
we feel like there are some people or moments in your past that hurt you that you have not fully dealt with.
You were working them out in not the right avenues, my dude.
So the Zara character, who
biggest sin was being
on her
ditched
phone
by kids.
Was being too good.
Too good for this world, Zara.
Yeah.
No,
pour one out for Zara.
I remember being pissed off about that, like death. Like I was mad. I was
the entire time I was watching this scene, like my whole body was I was just clenched. I was like, oh, why am I watching this? Make it stop. Like the whole time I was just like, okay, this can be done now. This can be done.
So uncomfortably long.
It's like just 2 solid minutes of this woman being like thrown around and tossed by every dinosaur on the park.
Yeah.
Like the Avengers, where they do their splash page of every dinosaur coming in and doing its little part.
Yeah.
I feel like that was being played for laughs as well. Am I the only one that kind of?
I think that's part of why it was so uncomfortable.
Horror wasn't the horror of it really wasn't the
it wasn't supposed to be terrible. It was kind of supposed to be kind of cool.
Oh, that dumb assistant. She got what she got. She was so annoying.
She wasn't though.
Right. Like
she was the only good thing in this whole world.
Yeah. Do we all have some weird deep-seated shit we need to work out right now?
So like she gets picked up by a pteranodon. She gets flung around a bit between it. Like they start playing catch with her.
Because they keep dropping her into the water. One goes in, picks her up, tries to fly away. Another one comes, tries to take her, drops her again.
Well, they even like before that, they're like a couple of them. There's like 2 or 3 that like throw her back and forth.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just like, why are we still watching this? It's like a good 2 solid minutes of just her being tortured to death.
Yeah, because like holy shit, this is something that like should be reserved for the main villain of a movie, where you're just like, goddamn right, that's how they go out. Like this is something like
John
hubris
Hammond
should have led. Hubris should have led to that death, not just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Bitch is gonna get hers.
Like Jesus Christ.
So yeah, she gets like thrown around, then she gets like dunked underwater and waterboarded for a while.
Yeah,
and then finally the Mosasaurus puts us and her out of our misery
by eating her and the pteranodon that was trying to eat her at the same time.
And then smash cut to everyone's kind of just fine about it. Like, it's kind of, and like they even like show where the kids run up and just watch it happen, and they're kind of like unhappy about it, but also like they don't give a fuck, because immediately after that, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard roll up in their thing, and they're like running around, and then like the pterosaur comes over and jumps on top. I think that's what they called it. Something like that. But like one of them jumps on top of Chris Pratt, which I found out was like a midget. Did they like Chris Pratt? Like I was watching the behind the scenes, and like so like Chris Pratt's running, and then he like falls and rolls over on his back, and then like everyone like they did like a flash mob freeze. A little like a midget guy like runs out, jumps into Chris Pratt's hands, and then he's like doing the thrashing around to do the rest of this scene, and like Bryce Dallas Howard
practical effects
in like a little mocap suit.
Yeah, he's like in like one of those little Andy Serkis, and then like Bryce Dallas Howard comes over and like hits him in the head to knock him out at the end of that.
God.
Yeah, it is something to watch. So like if you're unfortunate enough to see this movie and have access to the DVD, just watch those scenes because it's something else.
So another when I was just reading off the cast at the beginning of this podcast for some reason, and I was like, oh hey, also we got John Garcia as park visitor in here. So one of the lady who plays Zara, when I clicked on her. The thing that like pops up in her trivia is during her death scene in Jurassic World, she did her own stunts.
Yeah, they showed that in the behind. Like,
fun fact, that was really her.
She's dead.
She is dead.
So I will say, like when I was watching the behind the scenes, like she did seem pretty like jazzed about it because like. I think it's just one of those things where like you're so in the middle of it that you can't see what it's going to be at the end. So like, I just get to do some fun stunts for a couple of weeks, and then like it gets put together, and you're like, oh no.
Even getting excited about your character dying, like that's a thing you see. It's like, yeah, I got to get blown the fuck away. Like it was pretty funny. It was great, but then
you're just like,
oh, not everyone died. Oh.
And then like
I was the only.
Wait, that was only me? Oh. Everybody else got out of that fine?
So like
even the assholes.
Any movie where like a shitload of people die and then like the character's just kind of cool with it and the movie rolls on, I always have a problem with because I'm like, can you just take a half a second and be like, well, that was sad. But they're always just like, because immediately after that Zara gets tortured to death by Colin Trevorrow's scene, like you have Bryce Dallas Howard being an action hero and her nephews run up and like, wow, is that our aunt? They do a joke right after that. And oh no, you don't torture a woman to death and then lay on the jokes immediately after that.
Immediately
like
after.
Taste.
God, this movie does so like, I mean, maybe not so many people, but for sure Zara and for sure just like
BD Wong.
This movie does them so dirty.
Yeah, it does.
But not as BD Wong gets it worse than the other one because he's only a slightly evil scientist in this.
Well, it's revealed at the end of this movie that he is the evil scientist, and it's not like
he has that scene with Masrani where they're like talking about like Masrani, who has no idea what's happening in his park because even though he's like the CEO of it, like everyone just does whatever they want and doesn't tell him anything. Like he's talking to BD Wong and he's like, you know, what have you done? He's like, you wanted me to do this. You know, he does his big speech talking about how they want, you know, he does his big evil scientist or his mad scientist speech. I'm like, he wasn't a mad scientist in that original movie. He was some guy.
He was just an excited dude.
He was some guy that didn't know how to write and had to erase his entire clipboard full of words.
He was actually the entire architect of dinosaurdom.
Yeah, and it's
Turned out he was the worst of them all.
But like the whole idea of like the movie, there's so many things in this movie. This movie thinks it's so clever, and it's like a commentary on where it's like BD Wong talking about like, well, if we made dinosaurs look like how they really did, they wouldn't look like how they do in your park. But guess what? This is what people wanted.
Fuck you, people, for wanting.
Fuck you, everyone in the audience right now.
I do kind of like that. I like that as like oh yeah, we made them look like this, even though if we're taking the DNA and this isn't what they looked like, this is what we made them look like. So
yeah.
Like I do kind of like that, but at the same time, I want my feathered dinosaur.
Hell yeah.
I want big old feathered T-Rex, big old chicken Rex.
But because like, I mean, obviously this movie was proved right because it made like $2 billion after it came out. But like this movie was telling us, you know, this movie was like scolding the audience as it was like before they had even seen it. So like, it was kind of having its cake before it was even made, I guess. Like the analogy
don't
there.
Eat pre-cake.
It's just eating a bowl of cake batter. You're the problem.
Let's see. So, and then
we forgot to mention. Well, I mean, you kind of brought it up a little bit, but like the reveal that little kid is sad because their parents are getting a divorce.
And you're like, oh, how is this going to be related to the rest of the movie? It's not.
It's not.
It doesn't give nothing that gets set up is ever brought up again except for the dinosaurs. It's like every time, it's like Colin Trevorrow had gone to like day one of Steven Spielberg's screenwriting class, or
and doodled during the whole thing.
He's like, he went to one day. He's like, yeah, I got it. And then
just
he
doodling kill Zara in his notebook.
Kill that bitch that left me.
because like they do like the outlines of what a story is. Like they have like they have the frame. They just didn't put any of the walls or anything in there. So it's just like an empty house. You have this empty house of who these people are.
Yeah.
So then you get one of the things that bugged me, and I noticed this when I watched it again, is that at no point in this movie are the raptors real animatronics. Like they are 100% digital, and it really stands out several times. Like even when, like there's one scene with Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Hoskins. He's talking to the raptors and talking to Omar Sy, who plays Chris Pratt's friend,
best friend who we never see again.
Yeah. But like even in that scene where all you see are the raptor heads and nothing else, like it's still just cartoon raptors in these things that just look really bad. So
just, that bugged me in the theater.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember there being so much talk about this movie being like, oh, look at this. They're bringing back practical effects. This is going to look great. It's great.
There's like one practical dinosaur
really
in the whole movie.
Yeah. And it all just kind of looks ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can get behind CG dinosaurs. That's fine, but
they didn't look.
The raptors look bad when you're especially when you're getting as close as you are to these ones.
Yeah.
Like they need to look real good, and they kind of don't.
Yeah.
So Hoskins calls in the InGen crew, and then you have one hero in this movie, is like the bearded guy who like shoots a pterosaur out of the sky as they're flying in their black InGen helicopters. So now it's a military operation. Jake Johnson is concerned for some reason. He calls somebody to warn him about it. He's like, you got to do something about this. I don't know why he thinks that, other than the movie needs him to.
Yeah.
Like, if I saw some soldiers coming in to kill the Indominus Rex, I'd be like, finally, thank God. Someone's taking care of this. Yeah. So, yeah, this is where we get the...
I'm sorry, I got a really weird text. Go on. I'm back in it. Sorry.
So this is where we get the raptor fights, the raptor mission, where Chris Pratt hops on his motorcycle and he's riding along with these. So the way they designed these raptors, and like in the first two movies, they were like long, sleek dinosaurs that had very like they had long, sleek strides. Like they were very a particular.
Even all the way up into like when we see them running through the jungles in Jurassic Park 3, like they are sleek as fuck.
Yeah.
And they are terrifying.
But then you get to this movie and you've got raptors with like a little hip wiggle. They're like. They're doing their little rolling hip wiggles, and it's like you're trying to make them look cute, but they're also wrapped. Like they just look goofy as shit. Like this whole scene looks real bad with Chris Pratt riding along. He's like riding between the raptors, and he gets like a little smile on his face, like, "Yeah, I'm so fucking cool."
No.
Also, the fact that Hoskins just comes in and is like, "All right, load up the raptors. We're sending them out," and then Chris Pratt comes in and he's like, "If we're doing this, we're doing it my way,"
which is exactly
with
the way that Hoskins
the raptors.
Yeah. So they go out. There's a bunch of guys with guns. They watch the raptor and the Indominus Rex talk for a while until
don't start shooting.
No, not until they realize that they're about to be killed, and they're like, oh, we should start shooting now. And then everybody misses. Like, no one gets a good shot in.
Nobody gets a good shot off. No. Except for the one person who just, like, rocket launchers at a raptor and blows it up out of nowhere.
I actually laughed out loud in that scene because, like, you have the little raptor head, like, peeking out of the grass, and all of a sudden, rocket out of nowhere blows it up. That was pretty good.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit.
There's some running around with some night vision goggles as the raptors are killing everybody.
Yeah.
Chris.
I hate everybody, but like,
I hate everybody.
I'm the one on the podcast right now, so I hate their explanation for why the Indominus Rex can talk to the raptors, because Wu put raptor DNA in there.
Yeah, so it's part
raptors are the smart one.
Part raptor, part T-Rex. So it's big, but it also is smart like a raptor.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Sure. But like if we are, as human beings, we are like X amount of numbers away DNA wise from being a banana.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can just talk to a fucking banana and like have it talk to me and I'll understand what the banana is saying. Like that's not
But
how
you can speak sign language to a gorilla. I cannot speak to you in English right now. So I don't hate the idea of, if they're creating a dinosaur from scratch, putting it being able to communicate with other. I don't hate that idea.
I feel like we would have needed a scene of the Indominus learning ASL, of Owen teaching ASL to the raptors.
I do feel like, yes, I feel like if you're going to do that, you need to show. I think they're trying to show that this thing is smarter, that this thing has intelligence beyond what they had planned, but I don't know.
That's
feel
the
like,
cuttlefish.
I feel like there's a lot to this thing that is just lost in like action scenes. And,
Yeah.
like a lot of show don't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
So yeah, the raptors end up going back towards the park with Claire and the two kids in that ambulance thing. There's some more jokes and business, like they're watching these guys get taken out on the like the tablet thing, and they're cracking jokes. I'm just like, this is not the time or place you make cracking.
This is uncomfortable as hell.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's essentially where we get into the finale of the film, where the raptors are tearing ass all over the park. They get Hoskins out of nowhere, like he's just gone from the movie now. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
He did.
Is he?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
The raptor bites his face off.
Oh, okay. Okay, right. That's right.
So they get back out to the park. Blue runs up on the four main characters because Chris Pratt is now back with the main group. Blue runs up and turns good again.
Yeah, because he takes the harness off. Because the
Oh,
harness
yeah.
was itchy. So she's like, "Oh, we cool."
Oh yeah, I
and then-
remember you.
And then she gets the other two, like,
The anatomy of this last fight scene is so weird because I swear to God, sitting in the theater, I watched the Indominus kill the remaining three raptors, and then Blue comes out of nowhere 5 minutes
Just
later.
well, because
kicks it.
The Indominus like picks it up and like throws it against the Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And then she's just kind of like out for a little while, I guess. Like she didn't actually die.
Okay.
But then it
Took a
does the
nap.
exact same thing to the other two. Like,
Well, one of them gets tossed into a grill.
oh my God.
Yeah.
And the other anatomy part of this scene too is that like, so like the raptors are fighting. Chris Pratt's ineffectually shooting the Indominus Rex with his Winchester just to give him something to do.
Yeah.
And that's when Gray says, "We need more teeth." And then
Claire's Bryce
like,
Dallas Howard
"Oh,
slaps
yeah."
him across the face and is like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
He's like, "Go get the T-Rex."
Oh, thank you for using your words.
So yeah, she goes, releases the T-Rex. So like, one of the other things about this movie too is that there are several times as all of the tourists are being murdered by different dinosaurs left and right, where different people, whether it be Hoskins or Chris, I think it's only Hoskins and Chris Pratt are saying like, we need to get everybody off this island, like get everybody, and she's like, we can still turn it around until it's way too late for the hero of the movie to be the hero of the movie at this point. So this place is essentially abandoned, and then so she goes and has Jake Johnson open up the big T-Rex thing. She waits until it's pretty much face to face with her before she turns and runs, but fortunately they put it in slow motion so that she was able to get, like, she turned on her bullet time so she was able to move through the world faster and get away from which is funny. If you one of the things that I noticed in the like behind the scenes stuff is when she's doing the actual running, she's in flats, like she's not in high heels. It's like,
oh, that's disappointing.
So she, like, even they knew that she wouldn't be able to do that.
But they've since the movie has come out, like, because this sparked this huge fucking debate, like they literally had an Olympic runner in heels running and like getting up to speed and being just fine. Heather is that Olympic runner.
Heather,
I'm not that Olympic runner. However, as a woman who doesn't wear heels every day, I know for a fact that a woman who would wear heels every single day in her job, literally probably for the last 10 to 15 years, she would be able to run in those things.
Your feet become accustomed to what you're wearing.
Right. You know how to do it. It's like
you would have to do the toe heel run, though, not like, because she's doing the full heel toe run, which I don't think you could do. Because you would probably snap.
What did your Olympic runner do?
I don't remember.
Also, Olympic runner versus Bryce Dallas Howard. So
I'm just saying, like,
it's weird
they
that they
had
made
somebody
that
who
choice.
just is a runner, put heels on her, and she ran just fine. Somebody who is used to wearing heels would know how to run in them.
Well, now you're talking about somebody who runs like as their life versus somebody who just wears the heels and probably doesn't run.
The main takeaway, though, is that this is the least of this movie's problems.
This is the biggest problem.
God damn it.
Yeah, so she runs back into the fight with the T-Rex, and then
Sorry, the thing that I didn't catch when we watched the movie initially, but then like heard them talk about later, was that when the T-Rex comes and meets up with the Indominus Rex, it busts through the skeleton of a Spinosaurus, because these movies continually have to say "fuck you" to the last thing that they did.
Yeah. So like the Spinosaurus like fucked over the original T-Rex from Jurassic Park in Jurassic Park 3, and now the T-Rex is getting him back.
Yeah. Because reasons, I guess.
So
you can get that reference.
In another how to shoot a scene, like, these human characters do everything humanly possible they can to not leave this fight scene between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex.
Yeah.
Would you want to miss that?
like this is badass.
Yeah, like
a lifetime. I was bored with the park. Now let's just have this happen.
And then so that leads there's the fight between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex, as it would do in the real world. The Indominus gets the upper hand, is about to kill the T-Rex when you get, which would, for me in the theater, was another laugh moment, where it's like the music is swelling and swelling, and then it slowly dies away, and you get and then the fucking little wobbly, wiggly hips comes.
Shaq is there, just
roll. If you want to know what these things look like, look at that, like Shaq doing his shoulder wiggle is what these things are moving like. But it comes like streaming out of from far away, doing the little hip wiggle. It jumps onto the Indominus, and that turns the tide on this fight and makes it even more impossible for these human characters to get away. Even though the fight is going in one direction the whole time, the humans are trying to follow it. Like, they don't want to. I don't want to close my eyes. Nope, there's a dog. So this goes on for another while until the two dinosaurs push the Indominus into a fence, and then hopefully you've forgotten that the mosasaurus is there, and then it jumps like 300 feet into the air, out of the water, and just grabs that thing.
Here's the thing. I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, it was an inevitability for this park to just completely go to shit, because if the Mosasaurus can jump out of its thing and snag the Indominus from the walkway, it could definitely do that to anybody walking by at any point.
Yeah, they had to keep feeding it sharks and whales and shit.
It didn't. The Indominus did knock down the fence a little bit, but it like jumps clear over it comes way out of the water and like snags the Indominus, pulls it under. The T-Rex and the raptor do a dab.
They just dab real quick.
Yeah.
Like, we cool?
Yeah.
Just Michelle and Barack fist bump. Just like.
And then that's it for them. The human characters kind of stand around looking like idiots for a couple more seconds, and then it fades into.
Oh yeah, we should leave.
Yeah,
we should probably leave. Oh, I forgot the big like music swelling moment also of like during the pterosaur attack. People are just dying around them, and then after Bryce Dallas Howard knocks out the midget off of Owen, he's like, girl, you got some good rifle knocking hands. And she's like, boy, you got some good vests, I guess. And then they just make out in the carnage around them.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
That's appropriate.
So yeah, we get the final scene where the parents of the two stupid kids come back for a scene, and they
aren't getting divorced now.
Who knows? Fuck, who gives a shit?
Your kid's almost dying,
and we never see him again.
Yeah. And then I can't remember what the pun is, but Owen Grady says a pun here, like, "We gotta stick together." Oh, it's like, "We gotta stick together for survival." And then him and Claire walk off into the sunset.
Oh,
that's a relationship that'll
flash forward.
Clearly, that relationship is going strong, and they're never going to separate for any reason whatsoever.
Not a reason whatsoever. They're like Sandy Bullock and Keanu Reeves at the end of Speed. They'll be together forever.
Until he turns into Jason Patrick.
We don't talk about that.
I mean, I guess they're still together, right?
No, he's a different character.
Is he?
Yeah, he's not Jack. She like specifically makes mention. I'm just like, oh yeah, that didn't work out. And now I'm dating Mr. No Face over here.
I'm gonna stay with. To being perfectly honest, I have not seen Speed 2.
Don't.
It's not a movie. I've seen it. I remember almost. The only part I remember is when Sandra Bullock murders a bunch of Italians when they run that. Instead of just running in circles until it runs out of fuel, they drive it straight into the middle of a bustling oceanside community.
Yeah, like you do.
Like you do.
Which is what they did in this movie, Jurassic World.
Or Jurassic World.
So the movie closes on the T-Rex roaring into the park, I guess, for whatever fucking reason.
Because now it is the
king of the
dinosaurs.
When T-Rexes ruled the earth.
Ruled the park.
Ruled the
Smash
parks.
cut to
Ruled
credits.
the school.
Good old Rexy.
Sexy Rexy.
Sexy Rexy.
So
Rules the park once again.
No more money, more.
Yeah, that's Jurassic World. We got through it, boys. We did it.
This movie. I would just like to say I apologize to anybody in the autistic community, I guess,
and to any little people out there,
and midgets, little people, women, just anyone that Colin Trevorrow knows.
Really take your beef up with him. So.
Yeah. I don't. So there are movies like you don't have to have a movie that has like a human heart aspect like the original Jurassic Park does. You can just go big dumb action, but to try to do the Jurassic Park heart part, but completely fail at every turn, I think is the biggest problem. Is like it's not just a dumb action movie. Like they try to do stuff, which is when like the Zara being a character that gets tortured, like it just bumps up to the when the humans bump up against the stupid action.
Yeah.
So like I think that's probably this movie's biggest failing. So yeah. Well, that was fun.
That was a good time.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Go pour one out for Zara.
Yeah. You can find the Moist Boys podcast, Google, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, whenever you listen, or any other place that you find podcasts, like wherever you found this one, because if you're listening, then you found it. We are also on YouTube.
When you're here,
you're family. When you're here, you're Italian. Go ahead and give us a rating wherever you're listening to this. Thumbs up on the old YouTube. 5 stars on Apple. I don't know what Google does for theirs.
Go leave me comments about how I'm a terrible human being.
Leave us some. If you work for Autism Speaks, go ahead and leave us some messages down in the comments.
Send me some death threats real quick. That'd be I'm fine with that. I've earned it at this point.
You can also find our Patreon, patreon.com/moistboyspodcast, if you want to give us terrible people some money to do more shitting on people.
Plenty of people to talk about.
Yeah. You can also contact us if you feel so inclined, and maybe I'll get back to you on Twitter at moistboyspod, and I don't know if I did that one. moistboyspodcast@gmail.com. So there's one more. Jurassic Park.
One more.
There's one more left.
Maybe a bonus episode.
we might.
Is it a boat?
It's the bonus nobody wants.
It's that turd in the cereal bowl.
The bonus content.
It's that 2 handfuls of poop balls. Bonus.
No.
Thank you, everybody.